On this week's show, we update you on Girls Varsity Tennis, Adia Weaver interviews visiting artist Tom Dunne, students celebrate Spirit Week, and Panos Vandris interviews Wells Grant recipient Melissa Batz. Lawrenceville's 10-minute newscast begins right now. From our studios inside the Lawrenceville School's historic Pop Hall, this is L10 with Ghael, Fobes. Hello and welcome to this week's show. On November 3rd, young adult author Karen Ghael spoke to students in the McGraw Reading Room. Ghael began her professional writing career while a senior at Princeton High School. She has published 2 books, Dove Rising and Dove Exiled, as a part of her The Dove Chronicle trilogy, with the final book, Dove Light, scheduled for release in 2017. Also Thursday evening, the History Department hosted the final installment of its 2016 election series. At the event, History Master Anne-Louise Smith and her honors government students discussed the U.S. presidential election and its historical implications. The girls' varsity field hockey team beat Blair 6-0 on Wednesday to win the New Jersey Interscholastic Athletic Association Prep 8 Championship at home. This is the 3rd consecutive state title for Big Red field hockey and its 5th in the last 7 years. Both the boys and the girls' varsity cross-country teams won Maple titles on Wednesday. The Big Red boys had 4 of the top 5 race times, with Marcus Trenfield, Sam Noden, Robert Enck placing 2nd, 3rd, and 4th respectively. Jesse Brewer finished 1st overall on the girls' side, while Katerina Peterman, Mayeli Santos, and Maggie Habib earned the titles of 3rd, 4th, and 5th place. Girls Varsity Tennis has been on tear recently, winning Maple and the state championships to carry off an undefeated season. Our sports reporter, Luis Arden, visited the courts to get an update on the season.
Thanks, Ghael. It's no secret that the girls' varsity tennis team is one of the most stellar on campus, having already reclaimed the Prep A state and Maple championships. Now the girls' tennis team sets its sights on another undefeated season. I'm here with Sophia and Sandy, captains of the girls' tennis team this year. So guys, how does it feel to be in your last season this year?
Well, I think it's bittersweet in that we've had such an amazing season, both match-wise and just with the team. It's like such an amazing feeling to know I've been a part of such a great dynamic team where each member is so involved and just engaging both on and off the court. We have 7 graduating seniors, so with this week being our last week of practices, it's sad knowing that it is our last, but also we're cherishing every moment with the people around us.
Yeah, and the dynamic on the team is really great, and so like going after school every day and playing a practice is just like something that I look forward to throughout the day.
What was your hardest match this year, and how did you guys push through it?
Definitely Homedale, which they're number 2 in the state. That was definitely our hardest match of the season. We won 3-2.
Well, I think it brought out some of the best in our playing the past 2 years. On many courts, you saw very competitive tennis and also our competitive spirits that at other matches might not have been fulfilled.
I'm here with Julia, a senior on the tennis team. So how does it feel being in your last season?
It's kind of sad because 7 of us are leaving out of the 10. Definitely had a great time, and it's a great team. I'm going to be sad to leave.
You guys went undefeated last season, so how would it feel to cap off your senior year with another undefeated season?
It'd be pretty awesome. We were undefeated actually the last 2 years, so it would be really cool to have it 3 in a row. And against Hill would be even better.
With 1 match to go in their season, the girls' tennis team chases perfection. From the tennis courts, I'm Luis Arden.
Thank you, Louis. Artist Tom Dunne is visiting campus this week, and he held a lecture for the visual arts students on Tuesday evening. Our senior arts correspondent, Adia Weaver, had a chance to sit down with him and ask him a few questions.
Mr. Dunne, how did you become interested in wood-turned artwork?
I had a friend, a graduate from MIT, who offered me a lathe if I would pay for the freight from Philadelphia to New Orleans. And since I didn't have a lathe, I said, sure, why not? And once I got it, I started playing with it. And the rest is kind of history.
What are the benefits and the drawbacks of working with natural materials in your art?
Well, every piece of wood that I find is different, and you never know what you're going to find. But you get to go out and get it, and mostly it's all free. and you meet lots of fun people. I always go back to New Orleans in the wintertime and have a big show there, which is always beneficial. A lot of my collectors are down there, and my bigger pieces sell down there. But I'm always at work in Middlebury as well, Middlebury, Vermont, where I'm from. So I do some carpentry. I have tables and coffee tables and things like that, but mostly I'm a wood turner.
Thank you, Adia. Fifth former Melissa Batz conducted her Wells Grant research on low-income students attending prestigious universities. Our news reporter Panos Vandris sat down with Melissa to learn more about her findings.
Tell me a little bit about what you did with your Wells Grant this summer.
So this summer I got to do some interview studies on low-income students at some of the most selective colleges in the U.S.
So were you inspired to do this project because of your own experiences?
Yeah, actually that's what motivated me to go out and kind of search for other people's stories. So the title of my research project is In Search of an Echo. So when I came to Lawrenceville, I was on the Young Scholars Program, and for me it was kind of a big transition, coming from like my public school in San Bernardino and like being kind of plopped into Lawrenceville. It was an amazing experience, and I'm so happy that it happened. But I was kind of wondering like what that transition would look like for other people. So like I figured that transition would most likely happen to people who came from public high schools and going to college that are like considered most selective. So I decided to go out and interview those students.
Well, what's the impact that you hope your project will have on the Lawrenceville community?
Because my report is essentially quotes taken from the interviews, like direct quotes, I hope to give a voice to people who are sometimes only seen as numbers in statistical reports. So there's a report called True Merit that the Jack Hancock Foundation put out in the spring, and it says that only 3% of the bottom quartile of low socioeconomic status, those students attend colleges that are considered most selective, whereas I'm not sure, I think it's around 78% of the people in the top quartile attend selective colleges. So when I'm thinking about that, I think like you see a number and then you kind of like don't really realize that there are people behind those percentages, so I wanted to give those people a voice.
So would you be able to give us a story of one of these students?
Yeah, so someone I interviewed from Yale, it's kind of funny, I just emailed her one day and I was like, I'm doing this project and could you help me? And she was like, yeah, like I needed somewhere to stay too, so she kind of just let me crash on her couch for a night. She was really nice. She's a theater major right now, and she was born in the Bronx, and she grew up in an inner city school that kind of helped low-income minority kids and pushed them into going into college, but she had never expected a transition as big as like coming from her public school into Yale. So what was interesting to me was that she kind of described her experience as living in two separate worlds. So she lived at Yale and she was studying at Yale, and she had all of these issues going on, like studying for midterms, I guess things that we students would consider issues. So like studying for your midterms, like making sure you're doing well in a class, doing laundry, stuff like that. Whereas at home, she has like a couple little sisters and they didn't have water. They didn't have like heat that year because they were living in like the projects. So she described to me like coming home like for winter break, and she said that suddenly everything that was happening at school like seemed so trivial. Like it was just crazy to her to live in these two worlds, but to never really want to connect them. And then she realized that there's nothing immediate about getting an education, and there's nothing immediate about like working towards something that's eventually going to help her and her family in the future. But it was just interesting to me to hear that voiced and like said out loud. And I definitely saw some sort of connection there.
Thank you, Panos. If you want to learn more about Melissa's report, check out the link in the description. Laurentians are currently celebrating Spirit Week. With the festivities in full swing, we went around campus to ask students what the week meant to them.
Yeah, Spirit Week's a pretty good time to kind of just pump up everyone around you, get prepared for the big games on Saturday.
week so that we all get really hyped for Hill Day and we can relax and be out of dress code for major assignments week.
My favorite part of Spirit Week is definitely Pajama Day. Everyone comes together as a school, and you just really see the unity of the community.
It really brings the whole school together, regardless of if you're JV, varsity, and freshman.
That is our show for Friday, November 4th, 2016. From all of us here at L10, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck to all the athletes competing at Hill. Good night.